Good Friday, friends. Welcome to another edition of Southern Sports Focus. And I must apologize for the bit of light content this week. Let's just say when you have a stomach bug that is worse than how Alabama's run defense looked versus Florida State, you're not exactly inspired to create much content. But this week, today, we bring you 5 games, 5 questions. I look at 5 games. I present 1 question for each game. Pretty simple concept. Let's get to it, shall we? Question number 1. Should the focus of the Sooner defense be on quarterback Bryce Underwood, or maybe the Wolverines' running game? Yes, it was versus New Mexico, for freshman star quarterback Bryce Underwood looked pretty good in week 1, 21-31 passing for 251 yards and a touchdown. And while those numbers might not be overly eye-popping, it had to be an encouraging sign, as Michigan just had 2 200-yard passing games last year, and the high mark was 208. Yet the Michigan ground game is still what might determine how successful this offense is. Alabama transfer Justice Haynes rushed for 159 yards and 3 touchdowns in the Wolverines' opening 34-17 win. With Underwood making just his second start in the game being at Oklahoma, Sherrone will probably try to look to get the rushing attack going early to set up Underwood to make some plays in the passing game and build his confidence. Underwood might be who everyone is talking about, but stopping that Wolverine ground game early should be the Sooners' focus. Question number 2. Could the resurgence in a once great rivalry perhaps start a trend in college football? I know this is more of a big picture thing than just one game, but I'm really hoping that people watch and see a great game in Kansas versus Missouri. This is the first installment of the Border War since 2011. These two teams have not met since Missouri left the Big 12 for the ACC. And they are just one of a number of once great rivalries that are no longer played or rarely played in this era of conference realignments. There's no more Bedlam. Rarely do we see Oklahoma versus Nebraska. Michigan versus Notre Dame has not been played since 2019. And if things don't change, there aren't any Notre Dame USC games scheduled after 2026. This is a series that has been played every year since 1926. Rivalries are part of the lifeblood of college football, and we have lost so many, either mostly or even completely. While a game like Kansas versus Missouri rarely has a huge impact on the national radar, it is a game the fans of both sides have hungered for a return for, and hopefully the college football fans will tune in to see dynamic playmakers like Jaden Daniels and Kevin Holman and Ahmad Hardy. In this changing landscape of college football, the commitment to rivalries is something that must always be a part of the game. Hopefully, this game will help prove that fact. Question 3. Will one of the few teams that scheduled Power 4 out-of-conference games for weeks 1 and 2 come to regret it? Scheduling and schedule strength is a topic that has been part of college football pretty much since the BCS began. But with new scheduling metric, the College Football Playoff Committee will use, it might be more important than ever. With a 12-team playoff, it might expand even more, it might not. Anyway, the advantage of scheduling a number of P4 OOC games that it gives a team a better chance of building a playoff resume and might even make your team more battle-tested. The disadvantage is, especially if you schedule these games early, is that it leaves almost no room for error. Such is the case with the Baylor Bears. Dave Aranda's team is one of 2 teams to start the season with back-to-back out-of-conference P4 matchups, the other, Virginia Tech. The Bears, who are a bit of a trendy dark horse playoff pick, lost their opening matchup 38-24 to Auburn at home. And this week, Aranda's team goes on the road to face SMU, one of the ACC's 2 college football playoff teams from last season. A loss this week means they have to win the Big 12 to have any hope of making the college football playoff. The Bears get a bit of a respite in week 3 as they host Samford, but after that, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State. Lose 2, or maybe even one of those, and any hope of the Bears making the playoff might be done by the first week of October. Our next question, can the Wildcats do it again? Yeah, it's a basic question, but what I'm sure Kentucky fans are asking is they host Ole Miss this week. Last season, Lane Kiffin's team was upset at home 20-17. It was probably the loss that ultimately kept the Rebels out of the playoff, as the Cats finished 4-8 overall, and it was their only win in conference play. Lane probably has had this game circled all off season, and it's probably been playing video of that game all week at the Ole Miss facility. Mark Stoops, Kentucky's head coach, is probably preaching confidence without arrogance, a fine line between we did it once and we can do it again, and just because we did it last year means nothing is guaranteed for this year. It will be interesting to see how aggressive Lane will be in this quest for revenge because it's Lane Kiffin. We know he took this loss personally, and the goal will be not just to win, but possibly to dominate. Could that philosophy backfire? If the Rebs do not dominate early, will his team play tight? If so, I think there's a better than average chance we could see another upset, this time in Lexington. And our final question, Week 2 has another bit of a hype train game. Will it roll on, or will it get derailed? I asked this same question about South Carolina versus Virginia Tech in Week 1, and the Gamecocks performed pretty well, getting a 24-11 win in Atlanta. This week, we are putting Illinois under that same spotlight. The Illini are another one of those trendy picks to slip into the playoff. Last year, they finished 10-3 and currently ranked 11th in the AP as they returned 75% of their production from last season, so hopes are high in Champaign. This week, the team is on the road. They head to North Carolina to Durham to face a Duke team that went 9-4 last year and won their opener versus Elon 45-17. While on paper, Illinois seems to have the advantage, a loss here could be potentially devastating to have their season, as this is their only out-of-conference P4 contest. Their conference schedule is manageable, but there's some tough tests hosting Ohio State, plus road games against USC, Indiana, and at Camp Randall versus Wisconsin later in the season. This might not be a must-win, but it's one that might be a swing game as the playoffs committee starts to meet in November. So those are my 5 games, 5 questions for Week 2. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and have a great day, everyone.